A passenger plane loses all power at 30,000 feet, plunging toward Earth with no engines, no hydraulics, and no hope. What happens next defies every rule of aviation and rewrites what we thought was possible about human survival. This is the story of how 155 people faced certain death and lived to tell about it. Before we dive in, what time are you listening? Where are you from? Drop a comment below and tell me. And please like and subscribe for more videos like this. Captain Robert Hayes wakes up at 4 in the morning. He showers, puts on his uniform, and drives to the airport. He has been flying commercial jets for 23 years. Today is supposed to be routine. Flight 743 from Miami to Seattle, 6 hours in the air. He arrives at the airport, goes through security, and meets his co-pilot, Jennifer Park. She is younger, only 8 years of experience, but Robert trusts her completely. They review the flight plan together. The weather looks clear. No storms, no turbulence expected. Everything seems perfect. They walk to the aircraft, a modern twin-engine jet. The pre-flight checks are completed. All systems are green. Passengers begin boarding at 6:30. Families with small children, business travelers with laptops, a young couple holding hands, an elderly woman traveling alone. 155 souls in total. The flight attendants help people find their seats. They stow luggage in the overhead bins. A little boy asks his mother if he can see the clouds. She smiles and says yes. At 7:15, the doors close. Robert starts the engines. The plane pushes back from the gate. They taxi to the runway. Air traffic control gives them clearance for takeoff. The engines roar. The aircraft accelerates down the runway. The nose lifts. The wheels leave the ground. Miami shrinks below them. They climb through the morning sky. Everything is going exactly as planned. 20 minutes into the flight, they reach cruising altitude, 30,000 feet. The seatbelt sign turns off. Flight attendants begin preparing the beverage service. Passengers recline their seats. Some read books. Others watch movies on small screens. The little boy presses his face against the window, watching clouds drift past. His mother tells him to sit back. He listens but keeps looking outside. Robert and Jennifer are relaxed in the cockpit. They have flown this route dozens of times. Jennifer checks the instruments. Oil pressure is normal. Fuel flow is steady. Everything looks good. They talk about their families. Robert mentions his daughter is graduating from college next month. Jennifer says her son just learned to ride a bicycle. These are the small conversations that fill the quiet moments of a long flight. Then, without warning, everything changes. At exactly 7:52 in the morning, both engines suddenly lose power. The roar of the turbines fades to an eerie whistle. The cockpit instruments light up with warning signals. Red lights flash everywhere. Alarms sound. Robert's heart pounds in his chest. He immediately checks the engine displays. Both engines show zero thrust, zero fuel flow. He cannot understand what is happening. Jennifer's hands move quickly across the controls. She tries to restart the engines. Nothing happens. The plane begins to descend. Not quickly at first, but steadily. They are gliding now, with no power, no thrust, nothing to keep them in the sky. Robert calls air traffic control. His voice is calm but firm. He declares an emergency. He tells them both engines have failed. The controller's voice crackles back, asking for confirmation. Robert repeats it. Both engines are dead. They need an immediate landing site. The controller starts scanning for nearby airports. The closest one is 40 miles away. Too far. The plane is descending too quickly. They will never make it. Jennifer pulls out the emergency checklist. She reads through the procedures for dual-engine failure. Step by step, check fuel systems, check electrical systems, attempt restart. They try everything. Nothing works. The engines will not respond. The plane continues to fall. They are losing altitude fast now. 28,000 feet, 26,000, 24,000. In the passenger cabin, people start to notice something is wrong. The engines are too quiet. The plane is tilting downward. A man in row 12 looks out the window. He sees the engine is not spinning. He tells the person next to him. Word spreads quickly. People become nervous. Children sense the fear in their parents. The little boy asks his mother what is wrong. She holds his hand tightly and tells him everything will be okay. But her face shows she does not believe her own words. Flight attendants receive an emergency call from the cockpit. Robert's voice is steady but urgent. He tells them to prepare the cabin for an emergency landing. The attendants' training kicks in immediately. They move through the aisles, checking that seat belts are fastened. They demonstrate the brace position. Some passengers begin to cry. Others sit frozen in shock. The elderly woman in the back closes her eyes. She is praying without words, just silent thoughts. The young couple holds each other. The husband whispers to his wife that he loves her. She whispers back the same words. Everyone on that plane understands they might die. Robert's mind races through options. They cannot reach an airport. There is no clear land below them, only dense forest and mountains. Then he sees it. A long, narrow valley with a river running through it. Next to the river is a stretch of flat ground. It is not a runway. It is barely even a clearing, but it is their only chance. He tells Jennifer his plan. She looks at the terrain and nods. It is insane, but they have no choice. They begin steering the powerless aircraft toward that tiny strip of earth. Without engines, they have no hydraulics. The plane is heavy and sluggish to control. Every movement takes tremendous effort. Robert uses the manual trim controls. His arms strain with the effort. Sweat drips down his face. Jennifer calls out altitude readings, 18,000 feet, 16,000, 14,000. They are descending faster now. The plane is a giant glider falling through the sky. Air traffic control is silent. They know what is happening. They can only listen. Robert aligns the aircraft with the valley. The river glistens below like a silver thread. The clearing looks impossibly small from this height. He needs to judge the descent perfectly. Too steep and they will crash into the ground. Too shallow and they will overshoot the clearing and hit the trees beyond. There is no margin for error. None at all. 10,000 feet. 8,000. 6,000. The ground rushes up to meet them. Passengers in window seats can see individual trees now. They can see the river, the rocks, the grass. Everything is coming too fast. Robert pulls back on the controls. The nose lifts slightly. He is trying to slow their descent. The plane shudders. It feels like the entire aircraft might break apart. Jennifer grips her armrests. 4,000 feet. 3,000. 2,000. They are seconds from impact. Robert's entire focus narrows to this single moment. Years of training, thousands of hours of flight experience, all condensed into this one desperate attempt. He adjusts the angle one more time. The plane drops below the tree line. Branches scrape the belly of the aircraft. Metal screams against wood. The wheels touch the ground. Not smoothly, but hard. The plane bounces once, twice. It slams back down. The fuselage shakes violently. Overhead bins pop open. Oxygen masks drop. Luggage flies through the cabin. People scream. The plane is still moving too fast. Robert stands on the brake pedals with all his strength. But without hydraulics, the brakes are weak. The clearing is rushing past. The end of the flat ground is approaching. Beyond it is a steep slope and more trees. They are going to hit it. Robert knows they are going to hit it. He braces himself. The nose of the plane reaches the end of the clearing. The front wheel goes over the edge. The aircraft tips forward. Metal screeches. The nose digs into the slope. The tail lifts up behind them. For a moment, it feels like the entire plane will flip over. Time seems to freeze. Then, with a final grinding crash, the aircraft stops. Silence. Complete and utter silence. Robert is breathing hard. His hands are shaking. He looks at Jennifer. She is pale but conscious. They are alive. He unbuckles his seatbelt and stands on unsteady legs. His voice comes over the intercom. Evacuate! Evacuate now! Flight attendants spring into action. They open the emergency exits. Inflatable slides deploy. Passengers rush toward the exits. Some are injured, bleeding from cuts caused by flying debris. But they are moving. They are alive. The elderly woman needs help. A young man assists her down the slide. The little boy and his mother go down together, holding each other tight. The young couple exits hand in hand. One by one, all 155 people escape the aircraft. They stumble away from the wreckage across the grass toward the river. Some collapse on the ground, sobbing with relief. Others stand in shock, unable to process what just happened. Robert and Jennifer are the last to leave. They do one final sweep of the cabin, making sure no one is left behind. Then they exit through the cockpit window. When Robert's feet touch the ground, his legs nearly give out. Jennifer catches his arm. They walk away from the plane together. Behind them, the aircraft sits broken and twisted, nose buried in the earth, wings crumpled, but it did not explode. It did not burn. It held together just long enough. Emergency responders arrive within 30 minutes. Helicopters land near the clearing. Ambulances navigate rough terrain to reach the survivors. Medical teams rush to help the injured. Remarkably, incredibly, there are no fatalities. No one died. Some passengers have broken bones. Others have cuts and bruises. A few are treated for shock, but every single person who boarded that flight in Miami is alive. News crews arrive by afternoon. The story spreads across the world. Aviation experts are stunned. They call it impossible. A dual-engine failure at cruising altitude almost never happens. Landing a powerless jet on a tiny clearing with 0 casualties defies all probability. Investigators begin examining the wreckage immediately. They pull data from the black boxes. They interview Robert and Jennifer. They inspect every system on the aircraft. What they discover is shocking. A microscopic crack in a fuel line caused a catastrophic leak. Both engines were starved of fuel simultaneously. It was a 1 in a million failure, a flaw so rare that it had never been documented before. But that does not explain how Robert managed to land the plane. Engineers run simulations. They recreate the exact conditions of that flight. They use the best pilots in computerized scenarios. Most simulations end in total destruction. The survival rate in their models is less than 5%. Yet Robert did it. When reporters ask him how, he struggles to answer. He says it was not just him. It was Jennifer's quick thinking. It was the flight attendant's professionalism. It was the passengers who stayed calm enough to evacuate quickly. It was 1,000 small things that went right when everything else went wrong. But people want a hero. They want someone to credit for the miracle. Robert becomes that person. He appears on television. He receives awards. The airline honors him at a ceremony. The passengers write him letters. The little boy's mother sends him a photo. In the picture, her son is smiling, holding a toy airplane. On the back, she has written, "Thank you for bringing him home." That photo sits on Robert's desk. He looks at it often. It reminds him of something important. Life is fragile. We are always closer to the edge than we think. But in the face of impossible odds, human beings are capable of extraordinary things. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is action despite fear. Training matters. Experience matters. But so does something else. Something harder to define. The will to survive. The refusal to give up. That day at 30,000 feet, when the engines died and death seemed certain, Robert Hayes made a choice. He chose to fight. He chose to try. And because of that choice, 155 people went home to their families. The aircraft was never repaired. It sits in a museum now, a monument to survival. Visitors walk past it, reading the plaques that tell the story. Children point at the crumpled nose. Adults stand quietly, imagining those final terrifying moments. Some of the passengers visit the museum. They stand before the wreckage and remember. They remember the fear, yes, but also the relief. The overwhelming gratitude for another day. Another chance. Robert rarely visits. He does not need to see the plane to remember. He lives with that day every time he climbs into a cockpit. Every time he starts an engine. Every time he lands safely. He knows how quickly everything can change. How suddenly the ordinary becomes extraordinary. That knowledge has changed him. He flies more carefully now. He appreciates small moments more. The sunrise through the cockpit window. His daughter's laugh. The simple miracle of being alive. And sometimes late at night he thinks about that clearing, that impossible tiny strip of earth that became a runway when they needed it most. He thinks about how many things had to align perfectly for them to survive. And he feels grateful, not proud, not boastful, just deeply, profoundly grateful. Because at 30,000 feet, when everything went wrong, something went right. And that made all the difference. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe for more videos like this.